Hi guys, it's Nicola Bird here from the Floral Project, and I'm here to create your May Grow Together flower kit instruction video. So that's what we're doing here today. So what you need to get started is you need some little pots or a seed tray or an old food tray. You need your plant labels. Don't forget these, otherwise I know you'll be posting saying, what is this, what is this? You need some compost, peat free please if you can. And then you need your seed packets. Okay, so these are from the May flower kit. So just to explain to you what you've got here before we start sowing. Strawflowers, the first one. So these are weird and wonderful but very beautiful little flowers, and they have this really papery weird kind of texture, so a great one to grow with the kids. And they are great in our cut flower arrangements, but they're really going to come into their own actually later on in the year, because you can dry them. And you can either dry them so that they fade out and they have this beautiful vintagey feel about them, or you can dry them and keep them so that their colour's really vibrant actually. And I've chosen silver pink as the colour that we're going to be growing this month. And you can get these in some really bright kind of eye-popping shades of red and yellow, really bright. And they look really papery and kind of really artificial. But I wanted these because, I mean, silver pink, what a beautiful colour to grow. So that's what we're growing. Then we have Nicotiana. So this is actually the tobacco plant. And I wanted to include this one because it's a slightly different shape from anything that we've grown previously. It's got real kind of trumpet flowers on it. But it's also quite nice because it's one of the few flowers that can grow in partial shade as well as light. So for most of these flowers that we grow at the Floral Project, most that you'll grow for your cut flower patch, need to be in 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. And these ones can take part shade. So if you've got a slightly shadier part of the garden, that's where mine are going to be going. So we've got a mixture of colours here that we're going to sow of that. We've then got Briza Maxima, which is a grass. So again, a beautiful, it's going to lend these like really airy, wafty kind of texture to your bunches of flowers. Now these are a hardy annual. It's the only hardy annual we've got in here, which means it can tolerate frost. And these, actually with all of these ones you can sow directly into the ground if that's the way you prefer to grow. Me, I'm a bit of a control freak, so I love being able to nurture them on my windowsill and see them sprout and grow and nurture them and know how many I've got, and then plant them out once they're big and strong enough, rather than direct sowing. But if you like direct sowing, you can go straight ahead with that in the month of May and just go for it. So yes, that one's a grass, so slightly different. This one takes, just so you know, this one can take a bit longer to germinate. So don't freak out if everything else has popped up, but this one's doing nothing. Just give it a little while, and sometimes it takes a bit longer, but it will come up. Then we've got Phlox here. So Phlox Drummonde is this beautiful annual flower that it's got these like star-shaped almost little flowers, a whole load of flowers all on one stem, and they are great fillers for your jam jars and your posies, and they're just so pretty. And again, we've got a mixture of colours here, so you can really mix and match with your jam jars and posies as you're putting them together in the summer. And then finally we've got zinnias. Okay, so this zinnia is envy green. So again, these come in really bright colours, zinnias. And I've chosen this one because I wanted it to complement all the other colours that we've got going on. It lends a kind of neutral tone, so you're going to be able to put it with just about anything when you grow it. Okay, so we've got this real mixture of flowers. Apart from the grass, apart from the Briza Maxima, they're all hardy annuals, half hardy annuals, which means they can't tolerate any frost at all. So we've waited until now to sow them. We're going to sow them, we're going to grow them on indoors again. After your last frost date, if you want to wait till the end of May or whenever your last frost date is, you can plant all of these sow them all directly into the ground. What I'm going to be doing, starting them off under cover in my kitchen windowsill, and then I'm going to be gradually increasing the amount of time they spend outside. I'm going to plant them out after the last frost date. Now for me that's around the 20th of May, and they're not going to be big enough to go out in the garden by then, but I'll look after them, I'll grow them on, and when they're like yay high, I'll show you when, we'll plant them out into the garden, and there'll be no danger of them getting damaged by frost. They'll flower into the later half of the summer, and so they will really, especially if you've been growing the April kit, where the cosmos will take off sooner, and then these flowers will kind of follow along in a flow after them. So they're all, you know, there's a real good variety this month in what we're sowing and growing together. So enough said on that, let's get sowing and show you how to do each of them. So first, let's take a look at zinnias. So zinnias, they don't like being moved and transplanted on. So ideally, you want to, rather than starting them off in a seed tray and then pricking them all out, what we're going to do with these, if you can, is start them in a module tray. And all that means is we're going to start them off, and only when they've kind of filled their module, their little cell in the module tray, we'll pop them on by basically levering out this whole cube of soil, popping them into a pot, and they won't even know they've been transplanted. It's just a bit gentler than pricking out and then kind of teasing each seedling out if you've got too many. So if you can, either grow in module pots. If you don't have a module tray like this, just do these, but just, if you can, just do one per pot, because when they germinate, if it doesn't germinate in the first sort of, I don't know, couple of weeks, just pop another seed in, or put a couple in and then just pull out the weaker plant. So try not to move their roots too much, basically, with zinnias. So what I'm going to do is, here's my zinnia, I've opened it already. So they're quite easy to handle, these seeds, because they are quite large. So I'm just going to pop one on the surface of the soil to start with. We've got another zinnia for you next month, actually, a romantic, what's it called, dusty pink or something. So you're going to have some more going later into the season as well. But for now, this is the one we've got, the green. And pop those away so I don't get those confused and mixed up. And then all we're going to do is this. So you see, I just put one on the top of each of these modules, and then you just want to finely cover it. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Let me just shift the camera. Finely cover them in soil like this. Okay, so you don't need to like plant them deep or you know, make holes and drop them all in. You can just go like this. So there's a light covering of soil over the top. Okay, and what I'll do now, just have to do that, don't you? Just have to, can't not. And so what I'll do now is I will water these. Now these do not like they don't like the cold, and they don't like the frost. So what they do like is they like warm and they like moist. So depending on where you are in the country, zinnias will do well for you or not so much. But give them a go and see if you can create an environment that they like. So I am going to keep these, I'm going to water them, I'm going to put them into the kitchen to germinate. I'm going to put a plastic, I don't have one here, but I'm going to put a plastic lid over the top, because I want to keep the growing environment quite warm and humid for them as they're growing, and that plastic lid will just keep the condensation inside of the tray, make sure they don't dry out, especially as it's getting warm. Once I see a good degree of germination, I'll move them out into my greenhouse, and my plastic greenhouse, and then they will keep growing on there until they're big enough for us to pot them on, and which we'll do together, and then plant out into the garden. So that's your zinnia. It's very straightforward. So next we have strawflowers. Okay, so these seeds are very cute. They look like you know, hundreds and thousands, chocolate hundreds and thousands they look like. So I've just got a little pot like this. So I used to sow everything in module trays, but what I realized was that I'm not sowing 45 of everything. I only want, I don't know, 10 plants, right? I just don't have enough room in my garden. So I don't need thousands and thousands of them. So what I'm going to do is, if I just sow them in a pot like this, it means that when those germinate in my kitchen, I can move them outside into the garden and leave other seeds behind that haven't germinated yet. When I used to do like 6 different types all in a in a module tray. Some of them would germinate, some of them hadn't, because they were different varieties of plants. Obviously they took a different amount of time to germinate. So this is my way of solving that problem. So I just sow into these, and they take up a lot less space as well on your windowsill. So all I'm going to do is I use my little finger and just scoop them out, or use your finger and thumb, however you want to do it, or you can just do a light sprinkle if you want to. But I'm going to do, I'm not counting actually, but I'm sowing them into the soil about 1 centimetre apart, so I can probably get about 10 or 12 in here. I don't need to be too fussy actually. So, okay, so just onto the surface of the soil. Let me just very carefully put these seeds back. So these babies need light to germinate, so it's really important that you don't cover them with soil. Let me just get my label, of course. So you don't need to cover them with soil. These are good to go just like this. I'll water those, put them on the kitchen windowsill, and that is Strawflowers done. So next we have Nicotiana. So I've made a job of ripping that packet open, haven't I? Now with these, what I want you to be aware of is these seeds are tiny, so please open the packet very carefully. We've got like 2,000 seeds in here. I just couldn't seem to find a way of ordering you fewer. I know you don't need 2,000 plants, but you have 2,000 seeds here, so sprinkle with care basically. So I've got my little pot here with my compost in, and I'm just going to, there's no way of picking these up and sowing them individually. So I'm just going to gently sprinkle. I know I'm going to see so many pictures from you all with 5,000 Nicotiana. I'm just going to sprinkle that gently onto the surface of the soil. Best I can. Get these will be germinating all over the greenhouse now all summer long. Get them back in the packet. And again, these just need a very gentle covering of soil. So hopefully you can see that in the corner of the camera there. I'm going to cover them over. There you go. Water onto the kitchen windowsill. Done. So now we're on to Briza Maxima, which is the grass that we are sowing. I'm going to do these ones slightly differently because I don't want to transplant them. I don't want to prick these out as little seedlings. So I've just got 3 pots here, and I don't need a lot of this. I only want a couple in my cutting garden, and I'd like one to be able to put into some pots because I think it would just be really nice with the other flowers that I've got growing in containers. So those ones won't be to give, but the other 2 will be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just making little holes in the soil, but I'm actually just going to sow 2 plants per pot. And what I will do, see, I'm doing each of these slightly differently just to show you how many varieties of ways there are of doing this. There is no one right way of doing this. Everyone finds their own way. But what I'm going to do this time with these is I've got the little seeds here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 1 in each of the holes, and then whichever one is the strongest plant, I will keep that one and I will dispose of the other one. Okay, and then they won't have to be transplanted. They can just grow on in this pot. It'll have a whole pot to itself. It'll grow on, and then I'll just place it out into the garden. So you can see I've done the holes probably about 5 or 6 millimeters deep. So they want to be planted quite deeply, and then I just cover them over like that. I'm just going to do the same while I've got this got them out. So I'm just gonna, you can actually pinch them in your fingers. So here we go, all done. You can, these are quite good ones. I have done these before in module trays actually as well. I just didn't want to fill a whole module tray with 40, let's face it, nobody needs 40 Briza Maxima, do they? So these, but you can direct sow these into the garden right now if you would like to, if you find that easier. And there are instructions on the back of the packet for how to do that. There we go. So again, water, kitchen windowsill until they germinate. Last but not least, it's the turn of the Phlox. So these guys need real proper dark to germinate. Okay, so I'm going to sow these ones slightly differently. Again, adapt to whatever it is that you've got available to sow and grow in. But I'll show you the principle of it, and then you can decide whether you want to do it in module trays or whether you want to do it in a little pot like we've been doing before, or a food tray or a seed tray. So I've got this half seed tray because, again, I don't want to sow a million of them. And I've put it inside this gravel tray so that when it goes on my kitchen windowsill, when I water it, the soil doesn't go everywhere. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put little holes here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go for 12. Again, I don't even really need that many, but so I've made holes here. I'm going to drop a seed into each one. That way. I mean, I always sow, I must say, I always sow. I put about 3 in there for luck. I do sow about twice the amount of seeds than I want plants to buy, and that's just because I'm pretty new at growing. So you know, I don't always get it right. I make mistakes, and that's how we learn, right? But I consider if I've got hundreds of seeds in a packet, why not sow double what I need? I'm not using any more compost than I would be otherwise, and it just means that I don't get disappointed, because if I need 6 plants and I only sow 6 seeds, chances of every one of them germinating and me getting every one of them right and not accidentally killing one are slim, and then I'm going to be disappointed. So I've dropped them in here. I'm just going to literally cover them over like this so that they're covered and dark. I'm going to water them, and then to really exclude the light, I've got this, which is just another gravel tray, and I'm just going to put it over the top like that. But to be honest, you could put a newspaper over the top. Ooh. You could put a piece of newspaper over the top. You could put a book over the top. You could find something to exclude the light. But what you do need to do, obviously, is just keep checking. Now, sometimes these can take a couple of weeks. See if I can put my camera down. Sometimes these can take a couple of weeks, but keep checking them, right? So these are going to go, again, I'm going to water them. They'll be on my kitchen windowsill. But you need to just keep checking, because as soon as they start germinating, any of them, as soon as you start to see the green starting to come up through, whip that off, okay? Because the ones that are coming up will then need the light. And if you've got this on, they just won't survive. So whip the lid off. Wait till you can see germination on most of them if you can, and then take them out into the greenhouse, okay? But the ones that haven't started off yet, don't worry about taking the lid off, because they'll be a bit slower, but they're under the soil, so you are excluding the light. It's just that they'll take a little bit longer to germinate, but don't worry about that. We've got all summer, right? So there's no rush. So that's all of your plants for May. So a bit of a variety this month. So you'll learn lots about sowing in different ways and different types of plants and all the rest of it. But the principle is the same. Right? You get your compost, you sow your seeds, you put them inside, or you can leave them in a greenhouse if you want to. It doesn't need to be heated. Now it's warm enough. If we get a frost or a really cold patch, then make sure they've got a lid on them or some fleece over them, or just bring them inside for the night. But we're nearly at the end of frost season now, so they should be fine to stay outside as soon as they've germinated. If you want to, you can just do the whole process outside in a greenhouse or in a white plastic crate box. You don't have to be growing them inside now at this time of the year. I just like doing it, so I like seeing what they get up to. So hopefully that's helpful. Post any questions if you've got them under this video, and I'll do my best to help. So really looking forward to seeing your first little baby seedlings come up from your Mayflower kit. Take care.